Picture this. It's a perfect spring day. You and your crew are soaking up the sun, live music in the background, craft beer in your hand, wandering past rows of breweries, local vendors, and food trucks serving up some serious flavor. That's Wild West Brewfest, and it's happening April 11th and 12th in Pflugerville. It's the ultimate craft beer festival run by the Rotary Club of Pflugerville, and every pour gives back, with net profits going to scholarships and local charities. So, tickets are going fast. Grab yours now at wildwestbrewfestpflugerville.com. Y'all, now they've banned drag shows at UT. The Trump administration is deporting students and slashing federal agencies, which is causing confusion and concern over student loans. And meanwhile, our college and university students are left in limbo, caught in the middle of the political turmoil. Today on CityCast Austin, I'm talking to a UT student about what it's like on the 40 acres. It's Wednesday, April 9th. I'm Nikki Devon, and this is what Austin's talking about. Hello, I am here today with Isaiah Williams, senior news reporter at the Daily Texan. Hi, Isaiah. How are you?
I'm doing well, Nikki. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm so glad that you're on here with us. I always get really excited when I can talk to someone that is going to UT right now and find out what's going on over there. So it's been a minute since we've checked in on the 52,000 of y'all over at the University of Texas at Austin. So in a few words, just off top, what is the vibe on campus right now?
Well, right now the vibe on campus is very uncertain. We hear in the news that there are a lot of things going on with the Trump administration and university funding, and we don't really know what of our programs are going to be funded or not funded within the next few years.
Yeah, so that's a pretty legitimate concern, I would say. Recently, President Donald Trump, speaking of Trump, issued an executive order to begin dismantling the Department of Education, which oversees about $1.6 trillion in student loans. And I think that what I've been hearing a little bit is from people, the discourse or whatever I've been hearing is like, yay, great, forget our loans, forget all about it. But I don't think that's how that works. Do you have any kind of firsthand knowledge of how the University of Texas students are feeling the effects of this kind of information firsthand and the closure of the Department of Education?
Yeah, so I've done some reporting on the Department of Education, and obviously I'm speaking for myself as a student, but what I've found is that a lot of the students don't completely know what a closure of the Department of Education means. And so one of my jobs over the last few weeks has been to articulate what that means. And so a closure of the Department of Education, for the most part, means that A, either some grants are being closed, or B, that some grants are being moved to other agencies. Now, there are issues associated with both of those things. Obviously, when grants are closed, that means less money for students. That means less resources, especially for college students and graduate students who may base their entire careers off of what funding they would get from the federal government. There's also the issue of moving some of the functions that the Department of Education was doing, like you had mentioned, student loans, to other portions of the administration that might not have as much experience or control over, say, a student loan portfolio. I know what you were mentioning with student loans was that they might be taken out if the Department of Education goes away. But they've really been moved to another portion of the administration. And so what we're looking at for now is whether moving student loans is going to affect the way that the federal government actually ends up administering them.
Do we have any information about where these loans are going? Have they said anything about that yet outright?
Yes, ma'am. The Trump administration has said a number of times that they're moving it to the Small Business Administration.
Oh, my God. First of all, listen, You just mammed me, Isaiah. You just
Oh, I'm
mammed me.
sorry.
It's okay. I'm teasing you. I like it. I've gotten to the part of my life where I don't mind at all. But every time I hear it, I'm like, oh, I'm a ma'am. Okay. Okay, ma'am. I like it.
I gotta put some respect on your name.
I love that. So, okay, the National Institute of Health plans to cut the rate at which it funds overhead for research grants. So now we're really getting into like the nuts and bolts. How do you see this change affecting research projects that are underway right now at UT?
So this is one of the largest portions of the federal changes that are really affecting college campuses today. We're seeing what's called a cut in the indirect cost rate. Now, normally universities would go and negotiate these indirect cost rates with the National Institutes of Health or the National Science Foundation and the University of Texas before these changes had an indirect cost rate of around 59 to 60%. So what this means is that they could get a lot of money and a lot of reimbursement for administrative tasks. Like we're talking, say, office workers who work in the lab, we're talking maintenance, stuff like that. And so when we're seeing a slash from 59, 60% all the way down to 15%, we're seeing a lot of questions of whether we're going to be able to fund labs similarly to how we have now. The question is, in the future, are we going to have the funds to be able to pursue the research that we want to do? And so I've recently been reporting on the National Institutes of Health and the National Science Foundation just to try and figure out what these changes are going to mean for UT. And what I've heard most from professors and graduate students, and even a few undergraduate students who are really paying attention to this news, is that eventually this is going to end up hurting our research if we're not able to find another source for those funds.
So now we're talking about not just one thing, because I didn't even think about the administrative side of it. We're talking about people's jobs and livelihoods and the upkeep of research labs. I don't know why my brain didn't go there at first. I just was only thinking about the research. And so not only is this going to affect the way things are happening right now, but you're talking that the possibility of whatever you guys have planned for the future, if you don't get that money, it's not happening.
That's right. And I think that's one of the things we need to think about when we talk about research and when we talk about spending cuts, because it's not like these spending cuts are going to result in, a bunch of people are going to get fired right now. But what we are going to see is, say somebody retires or say somebody leaves one of these administrative roles, what we may see happening is that the university just doesn't refill those roles. And obviously that has a huge effect on our research in the future.
So I want to talk a little bit about, and I know that this is just speculation for you, but I'm talking to you because I really want to hear what you think about it. Let's talk about the students as it pertains to this type of research and the way that things change. Do you think that this could affect the overall majors? Let's say if a person's coming in and they have this major, they find out there's no funding for research. Now they have to completely adjust what their plans are for their future.
There's definitely an anxiety, especially in the College of Natural Sciences. I've spoken to quite a few students who are looking at the news right now and thinking, oh, shoot, maybe I shouldn't be majoring, or maybe I shouldn't be putting my resources into this bucket if it might not be around in the future. I obviously, once again, speculation, I don't know how this is going to affect them in the future. But what I do know is that with the cuts to the National Institutes of Health, we are seeing a few cuts in their research internship program. And so students who were initially applying to those programs for research experience are now not getting to participate in those programs because the National Institutes of Health doesn't know if those programs are going to exist because of the funding cuts.
Wow. So you've reported that there are 6,600 international students at the University of Texas at Austin. President Trump earlier this year signed executive orders to deport foreign citizens who might have, and I'm putting this in heavy, heavy quotations, hostile attitudes towards America. What are you hearing from your fellow students right now? What are you hearing from your international students at UT?
Once again, it's a lot of fear from uncertainty. They don't know how bullish the Trump administration is on enforcing this executive order, and they don't know what's going to happen in their future if Trump does end up enforcing this executive order. I know he's already begun with deportations in some other schools, but we haven't heard anything happening on UT's campus yet.
A personal story. I went to UT too, and my first year at UT, my roommate at Kinsolving was Japanese. And this is going to sound real country, but like, it was the first time I had like Japanese food. It was the first time she provided all these firsts for me. She provided all of this like information about the world that I did not have before I met her. And then throughout my college career, I just kept meeting all of these wonderful students, all these wonderful international students from Nigeria, Cameroon, that just taught me. I mean, it was honestly the first time I understood how vast the world was, because I came from this Texas public education from like a small town. And I remember interacting with those people, opening my eyes, for not to be too cheesy and for lack of a better way to say it, of just like all of the things that were possible in the world. And so, that was way back in the day. I won't even bother y'all with how long ago that was. Right now, I am imagining that, having community with international students is even more of a big deal, because things are so much more dialed in and plugged in now. And so, Secretary of State Mark Rubio is now evaluating student visa applications to ensure that those, once again, heavy quotations, hostile attitudes aren't given visas. And so I want to talk a little bit about, what do international students mean to UT? And how would it impact the university to not have international students, in your opinion?
Well, part of the university's power and part of the university's community is in the fact that we have so many international students and so many people from different walks of life involved in our education. So normally when we think about education, obviously we think about some of the hard skills that we learn, right? I major in business. I have friends who major in biology. I have friends who major in engineering. But sometimes what we don't think about is that we're also here to learn quite a few soft skills. One of those things is learning from people who have come from different walks of life. So when it comes to losing those international students, what we're really losing is this opportunity to learn from the experiences of people who don't quite share our same background. I'm actually involved with the International Affairs Society. We've had this whole conversation about international affairs, and we'd been talking from mainly, a United States perspective, because for the most part, we had lived in the United States. And we had this one British student who was in there, and he was talking, he was looking around, he was like, no, y'all, this is ridiculous. This is not how the rest of the world sees this issue at all. And so what I fear, and once again, I like to maintain that I am a journalist and I don't want to speculate what's going to happen. But what I would fear is that we would be losing a little bit of that, a little bit of that charm, and a little bit of that perspective, because it's easy for us to only look at things from an American point of view. It's not easy for us to look at things from any other point of view.
Yeah, I think that your mention of perspective is right on the money. Yeah, sure. Things are like this in the US, and that's great. But also, the rest of the world may see things like this. Doesn't necessarily mean it's right or wrong. It just means that there are also other things that you have to consider. I think when the US, sometimes we're in a silo. I feel that we're definitely in a silo sometimes, and I have to get outside of the US to be like, oh, okay, all right. There's some other things going on. And so I think it's valuable to make sure, to your point, that students leave with a broader view of what the world is. We don't want people graduating from college only having this narrow view of what is possible, and I just think having those interactions with international students, I don't know. I feel like it's invaluable.
Definitely very valuable. Yeah, the fear of losing that is definitely a fear on campus, and we would lose a lot of our education if that were to happen.
Yeah. Hey y'all, Nikki here. I wanted to tell you about something that you need to save the date for. Austin Community Foundation has been a trusted partner in local philanthropy for individuals, families, and businesses looking to do good in Central Texas. And on April 29th, Austin Community Foundation invites you to Austin in Common at ACL Live Moody Theater. Now, this is an event like no other. It's focused on storytelling. emceed by Miles Blockson, the night will feature 4 community leaders who will share their Austin stories, their diverse experiences of living, working, and raising families right here in Austin. It's a chance to celebrate our togetherness because no matter who you are or where you're from, we all have Austin in common. Sponsorships and tickets are available at austinincommon.org. So get yours today. That's austinincommon.org. There's a new show coming to the Zach Theater, and it sounds incredible. Y'all have to go check out Bob and Jean, A Love Story, written by Robert Schenken, a Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright. So when Bob is deployed overseas and Jean tours with the USO, distance tests their devotion like never before. It's a wartime romance that captures the rush, thrill, and doubt of falling and staying in love. And y'all, this is a true story drawn from Schenken's own parents' letters. And it reminds us that even in the hardest times, love endures. So check out Bob and Jean on stage through April 19th. You can get your tickets at zachtheater.org. That's ZACH theater.org. So I'm curious because I know that last year around this time, there was a lot of protesting on campus for sure. But now the tides have changed a little bit. We've heard in other cities, and we've seen international students getting detained and deported for possibly participating in protests. I'm just curious about whether or not the threat of being deported is affecting people's willingness to protest.
Well, that's a good question. Yeah, the threat is always there. I remember I was reporting on a protest put on by a fraternity. They were protesting some of Trump's immigration policies, trying to show support for like the Latin American and the immigrant community. And there were a few people who had connections to some undocumented immigrants. For the most part, that's why many of these people were protesting. And so I asked them where their friends were, and they had full on said that some of their friends did not want to protest out of fear that they were going to get arrested and that there would be some deportation proceedings against them because of that. And so the fear is there. But I think what we're seeing from the protesters who do come out is there's this spirit of, okay, we are doing this for them. We are doing this because they cannot. That's a really interesting thing I've seen when I've been out reporting is there's the spirit of we're trying to represent this community that can't be here right now. And so I've gotten a few quotes to that effect. And it's just a really interesting facet of the protest that's very different from the ones we saw last year. Because with the ones last year, it was very public. It was very clear what they were asking for and who was asking for what. With these protests, it's more, okay, we are protesting to represent a community that can't
on behalf
protest.
of someone else. Yeah. Which, to some is the definition of an ally. That's you keep other people safe. You stand up for people that can't stand up for themselves or maybe don't feel safe, and you show up. And that sounds awesome. I love it. I love to hear it.
It's a very interesting theme that's gone through this community theme.
So I want my burning question right now is, so recently UT banned drag shows. from all campuses within the UT system. I'm curious if you know, like, where this move, first of all, where did this come from? And how are students and student groups reacting?
Well, that's a very interesting question. Like when you ask where it comes from, because there are so many sources of where
Yeah.
something like this would come from. The Board of Regents is the body that put out this drag ban to UT systems in the first place. And so there's this inherently political aspect because each of these board members is appointed by the governor and is in regular talks with the legislature and is in regular communication with some of the more political aspects of the state. Now, that's not to say that's not their job. I mean, it is the Board of Regents' job to communicate between the university and the legislature. It's just important that we know and that we articulate that that's a thing that's happening. And so some of it is pressure from authorities like that. There was also a letter from one of the county judges.
The letter's from Tarrant County Judge. His name is Tim O'Hare. He sent this letter to the university that you're talking about. He says that the performances, quote, highlight men, reducing the perception of women to stereotypes and body parts.
No, I mean, the letter's very public. I mean, he posted it on X, sent it all around.
Wow.
It was a big thing for a little while. And so the Board of Regents was told to take actions very similar to what Texas A&M is doing right now. What is interesting is that there's a little bit of difference between the drag ban over at Texas A&M and the drag ban here. As I've been reporting, it's very clear that this is kind of like a more indirect ban, if that makes sense. It's more like guidance was sent from like the legal counsel of the UT system to the legal counsel of each of the schools saying, this is how we're currently interpreting things, and this is how you should currently be interpreting things, as opposed to like an outright passed measure. And so the difference is, for its effect, the difference isn't very big, but for what it is, the difference is kind of massive. For instance, when it comes to, say, suing something like this, you can't really sue somebody for guidance. Like you can't sue the Board of Regents for
semantics. We're talking about semantics now.
We are talking a little bit about semantics here. Is that there's a difference. And so what we're looking at now is to see if the Board of Regents takes any real formal measures to put this drag ban into place. Because as of right now, nobody has challenged it or put anything forward. Yeah, and so it's very interesting.
So what I'm hearing is that UT hasn't come out and outright said there can be no drag shows on campus. They're saying that the guidance is that you should not do it. Is that am I understanding that correctly?
It's more like there was a statement sent out by the chairman of the Board of Regents saying that this would not be allowed anymore. But there hasn't been like an official, okay, these are our rules. This is what constitutes a drag show. Like there's no encoding in that way.
Yeah, and no set out consequences yet, right?
Exactly. It's just more like, okay, this won't be allowed.
That feels like a threat. That feels a little bit like a threat. Kind of like your mom and dad, like, don't make me come in there. Like that kind of threat. I feel like, I don't know. It just feels like another tool of fear. It's like not knowing how you could get in trouble, not knowing what a drag show, what constitutes a drag show. It feels really threatening. The vagueness of it feels threatening to me.
It's definitely a very interesting phenomenon. Like I've been trying to explore it more as I've done my reporting. I've been kind of trying to figure out what different groups have been thinking, how different groups are reacting, if some groups intend to challenge. And it's just been very interesting to hear what everybody's been saying on this matter.
Right. I think that they're really, really getting into dangerous territory, trying to dictate how people can show up on campus for performances and art. It's really scary. And it seems unfortunate that it's happening or that UT is even involving itself in it at all. There's a lot of things happening. There's a lot of legislation. There's a lot of hot button issues, and it can't be easy to concentrate on your studies and on your work and the reason you're supposed to be in college if you're having to worry about your rights. You're having to worry about just like research and and basic things that you need, you know? So, last question. Is there anything else that you want to mention regarding like what it is like to be a college student at the University of Texas right now?
Yeah. So when it comes to these issues of funding and research, it's really important that more than anything, we just keep our ears open. And obviously when we see headlines like this in the news, it's really easy to like immediately like jump to a conclusion or immediately look at it and say, oh, shoot, this is happening. I mean, I don't know what to do. But oftentimes if like we do a deeper dive or we look into it a little bit more, what we're going to see is that these issues end up being very complex and happening for a lot of different reasons. I think one of the best ways we can end up understanding these issues is if we understand like the underlying current of what's behind them. Make sure you're doing your research and make sure you're understanding the issues that you're thinking about. And I'm sure you guys are doing your research and you guys are figuring out all your stuff. But just for everybody out there, I think it's really important that yeah, we do a deeper dive into these issues.
Isaiah, this is awesome. Thank you so much for coming on and talking to me. This has been great. Like, you're so on top of your stuff. I love this. I'm sure that we will be asking you to come back so we can talk about more stuff and getting into all of the things that are going on campus.
Well, thank you very much. I really enjoyed being here. Thank you for reaching out to students. It's always nice to share what a UT student thinks about things.
Hell yeah. That's all for today here on CityCast Austin. You can find links to Isaiah's reporting in our show notes. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend, rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our Hey Austin newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye, y'all.